Welcome to the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I'm your host, Lyndsay Dowd. My goal is to help train leaders and sales organizations how to manage and deliver results with empathy, compassion, and kindness. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I'm so excited to bring our guest today, Michael Mintz. He is an international speaker, author, coach, and executive vice president of sales for Grand Homes, where he has worked for the last 25 years. His passion is to teach people how to be successful in life. He took his practical lessons from his work as an executive and sales leader and has turned them into a successful coaching practice. Michael exudes positivity and believes that having a mindset that is attracted to success can help you overcome fear, anxiety, limiting beliefs, and negative habits. Michael, welcome. So happy you're here.
Welcome. That sounded really good. I didn't know that sounded that good. That's really good. I haven't heard that before. You read it really well.
That's great. So
I'm trying to figure out who you were talking about.
That's funny. Tell the audience a little bit of your story, a little bit about your background, maybe kind of what brought you to Grand Homes, why you stayed, and kind of where you are today.
Well, that's a crazy story. So I'm straight out of college, believe it or not. I had a chance to go to Isfahan, Iran. My wife and I were just going there to visit my in-laws because my father-in-law worked in Isfahan. He was a helicopter instructor. Got there, met someone who was building houses on the base in Isfahan, Iran. And so I wound up going to work for them and staying there for 2 years and learning the housing business. I come back to America and jump into home building, even though my degree is in music. And I've been in home building ever since. I've been in sales for 25 years. It's a passion because I get to help people, purchase their dream home, which is usually the most expensive thing they ever purchase in their life. And I get to help salespeople be immensely successful in their careers. And over that period, I started mentoring men at first. I've been doing that for about 20 years. And then I started coaching people when I had time for the last 10 years. And I actually love coaching more than I do being a VP of sales and marketing. So that's kind of going to be my next job when I leave there in a few years.
So you found yourself coaching, and how did you find yourself getting into coaching? I mean, I know from being a sales leader, that kind of happens naturally. And from being any kind of leader, if you care about your people, coaching is just a byproduct of leadership. But how did you pivot from, leading sales organizations to coaching individuals, and why?
I think the short answer is because it's right in the center of who I am. Helping people be successful in life has always been important for me. A little over 20 years ago now, my wife and I went through probably the worst part of our marriage. And we were able to kind of scoop it up and turn it into something amazing. When people started finding out about that, I had men coming up to me and said, "Hey, my wife told me I have to talk to you." I go, okay. So I'd have coffee with them, and we'd talk about how they were struggling in their marriage. And then I had another one, and before long I was mentoring 6 or 7 guys a week. That kind of morphed into some of the same issues were happening at work. I started coaching some people at work. When I tell people I'm a success coach, I rarely ever wind up coaching people's career or their finances or how to make more money. Typically, I'm coaching someone who's made money, who's been very successful, but the rest of their life is going to hell.
Yeah.
Typically because they focus so much attention on their career and on making money that they spent no time working on their marriage or relationships or their health, or the positivity or a lot of things. So that's usually where I spend most of my time.
They're out of balance. And, I would love to just hear your perspective on this, because I was just talking about it yesterday. And I think there's so many successful business people that would like to hire a coach. They're maybe a little suspicious. Mm-hmm. They don't really know why they should hire a coach. And then I just did a post yesterday about the most successful people anywhere have coaches. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so I just share your philosophy on coaching, because, we're both coaches, and I just believe there's room for everybody, because there's millions of people on this planet that need help.
Right. Well, personally, I've had a coach my entire life. In fact, what turned my life around at 40 was accidentally finding a coach. I didn't know he was a coach. And he started helping me for free at first. He said, do you really want to make this purposeful in your life? And I go, yeah. He says, well, it's really not going to be good until you start paying for it. And I really didn't understand that as much then as I do now.
Oh.
But I started paying him really money I didn't have at the time. And he changed my life. But here's what I tell people, Lyndsay, that I would never consider trying to fix a broken bone myself. I would get up, I would drive to the doctor, and I would pay him huge amounts of money to fix my broken bone, because I know if I could fix it, I would have fixed it.
Yeah.
Well, our success in life is exactly the same. If we could get our head in a place where we could fix it ourselves, typically we would have already done that. But we can't. What we need is someone who, I guess, is kind of on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And number two, is not afraid to tell you what you need to hear. And then number three, is also not afraid to hold you accountable to do what you need to do in order for that to happen.
I love how you said that. And I my friends that are therapists and psychologists and even psychics, they can't work on themselves. They just can't. And
Right.
They need that external view and that external perspective to kind of help them peel back the layers and really help them see the obstacles that they keep tripping over that are obvious to us, but really not that apparent to them. So can you talk a little bit about your leadership style and philosophy?
Yes. I don't know if I call it a style as much as I call it a way of life. So for me, leadership has to begin inside. So I have people that want me to teach them leadership. I have executives that are saying, man, I'm struggling with my leadership. And really what we do is we stop, and what we find out is they're really struggling with leading themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, because the true real problem in leadership is getting to a place where you actually lead yourself well. Then I tell them from there, we have to move to your family or to your relationships. If you can't manage your own family and lead your own family or relationships, then what would you possibly have to lead you to believe that you could lead a group of people? And so it's amazing how you go through that direction and go this way. And then by the time you get to the people you're leading, it actually is just really an extension of who you become.
Right.
Because our biggest nemesis in leadership is our own thinking. That's it, our own thinking. It's not the people we lead. If I could just get better people, I'd be a better leader. And the truth is, no, it's like one of the first books I read 20 years ago was John Maxwell's a book on the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And the first one was the law of the lid. And you'll never be able to lead people more than your leadership level is. Mine was at a 2 at the time. Well, that means your team will never be better than a 2. So in order for your team to be better, your skills have to get better.
Yeah.
The other greatest thing I learned, that every leadership skill you need, you can add to your toolbox. You don't have to be born with any. You
totally
can add them as you go. Yes. Thank goodness you don't have to be born with any, because I didn't have any.
Well, and that's such a fun topic, because I lately there's been a lot of talk about, can people change? And when you have these leaders that are less than savory, and really aggressive, belittling, very driven hustle culture, we're a family kind of stuff, it's often more repellent than it is inspiring. But I've talked to so many of those people who have changed. And it's such a joy to see and hear them say, I was an asshole. I was such a bad leader. Like I just yelled at people and expected them to do things that I wanted them to do. And I love when people have those epiphanies that, if you dig deep and can inspire, think of the goodness you can get out of people. So, okay, I want to back up just a second. You've been at Grand Homes for 25 years. And what kept you there?
Well, I have to answer a little bit of the question you asked before. So
yeah,
my wife will tell you that I am a recovering alcoholic. I am. My mantra at 40 years old was, don't stand between me and what I want. You won't like it. And that was it. And the people that I was managing at the time, they felt it. And the greatest thing that ever happened to me was learning to love people, learning to care about people. That's why I talk a lot about kindness.
Yeah.
I did not understand how powerful kindness was. Of course, it wasn't until, I got to a place where I was dead on my back, looking up, broke, and had nowhere to go but up, that I understood the power of kindness. So, to those that believe that you can't change, that you can't become something different, that's who I was. I've had people that still work for me, that worked for me before and work for me now. And they'll tell you that the difference is night and day, mainly because of the difference in my level of kindness.
I love that. And let's talk a little bit about, I think a lot of insecure leaders mistake kindness for weakness. And I think they also believe it's softness. And I want to hear a little bit about your thoughts on that, because you and I both know how powerful kindness can be, but break it down.
One of the statements that Jordan Peterson makes is he tells you to teach your children to become monsters. And I go, whoa, that's a crazy statement. And the reason he says that is because the world in which we live wants everyone to be pacifist, wants everybody to be calm, wants everybody to be peaceful, wants everybody just to lay down and take it. And I raised my children, they're all girls, I have all girls. I raised them to be very strong and independent. Yet at the same time, I told them, look, that kindness is a superpower. Okay. Kindness is like a gentle giant. Okay. Because you have to be an amazingly strong person to lead. Okay, that's a true statement. You have to be strong in your beliefs. You have to be strong in what you want. You have to be strong in where you're going. But at the same time, you can use kindness not as something to hit people over the head with, but something to put your arm around and say, come go with me. The truth is, people want to follow. One of the craziest things I've learned in life is that people want to follow. Okay, they do, but they want to follow someone that they believe cares more about them than they do themselves. That's where kindness comes in. Okay, no one wants to follow somebody that all they care about is themselves. Okay, can you imagine the kind of leadership we would have in companies where the leaders themselves cared more about the people than they cared about themselves? And how much more money would you make? I mean, I've read so many articles and books where leaders figured out, oh my gosh, if I'll just treat my people fairly and kindly, there's nothing they won't do to make sure I'm successful.
I've lived it. To understand. It's so true.
Yes.
It's so true. And, I think the person that people would recognize the most who embodies this is Sir Richard Branson. I mean, he always says, take care of your people, they will take care of the clients. And I've had wonderful experiences with his products. I've flown on his planes and it's been amazing. So it's true. And it's great to be on that side of it as a client or customer. So you talk a lot on LinkedIn. You are very, very busy. You're posting all the time. What role has LinkedIn played in your success and your career?
Oh, a number of ways. So I started LinkedIn in 2020. And I only really started on LinkedIn and started posting because I wanted to become a better writer. I was an aspiring writer, wasn't a great writer at the time. I had done a lot of speaking, but never any writing. And I got some advice and said, hey, just go somewhere where you can start posting articles. Well, so when I first started, they were way too long, but I just got busy posting. Well, here's what I found very quickly. And I love to share this fact. Over the last 2 years, I've been able to make more and better and greater friendships on LinkedIn than I this is crazy when I said it this way, but than I have in real life, because LinkedIn is real life.
Well,
but
you have access to more people on LinkedIn.
So, yes. And you would have thought that, I never would have believed that one of the byproducts of being on LinkedIn was you find some amazing friendships. And I mean, when I say friendship, I mean the true meaning of friendship. If they detect that something's wrong with me, they'll send me, hey, what's going on? I haven't talked to you, I haven't heard from you. Let's Zoom, let's talk. I have more people encouraging me on a daily basis today than I ever have in my entire life because of LinkedIn. And that really isn't that who we're supposed to be? Aren't we supposed to be a source of encouragement for other people? And now I have more than I've ever had in my life. It's kind of crazy. I'll throw this in there too. That I call it real life. In real life, we struggle to find people who want to sign up to encourage us on a daily basis. But when we start to experience success, and all of a sudden now it gets difficult for them to continue to encourage us because maybe we're getting a little far out from them. And now it's like hard for them to say, oh, I'm so excited about your success, right? And when really they're thinking, why are you thinking you're better than me? Okay. I find that on LinkedIn, even though I know there are some naysayers on there, I can tell you there's 25 people right now I could write down and say, these people encourage me on a daily basis and make me want to be better at who I am and what I do. So it's, for me, it's just an amazing place to invest if you want to invest.
Yeah, I agree. And that's how we met. And I've been, I'd been on LinkedIn for many years, but I really hadn't been active until this year. It was always the place I went, when I was mad and, I hated my job. Or I hated a situation I was in. I'm like, I'm going to go look for a job. I'll show them. And, I didn't fully understand the power behind it. But I totally agree with you that when you're constantly putting out positive stuff and you're encouraging people and you're giving, you get back like 3 times as much. It's really an impressive place to exist. So I'm with you on that. So you talk a lot about humility and making mistakes. Share some of your thoughts on those topics.
Oh, I think leaders should be the very first to raise their hand and admit mistakes and share mistakes. I think in leadership, even as a parent, sometimes our tendency is to want to hide our mistakes and put ourselves up on a pedestal and think that's where we're supposed to be in order to lead people or to lead our children. And I found in the course of making so many mistakes myself, I found that that's absolutely the opposite thing you need to do. One of the greatest things I ever did was tell the people that work for me about my mistakes, about how I screwed up my marriage, about how I've screwed up being a parent. And it's amazing that once you start doing that and once you're very, very quick to do that, it truly is amazing how it opens the door for other people to be open and honest and even vulnerable about who they are. I today have the greatest sales management team I've ever had in 30 years of being in this business. And that's because all of them are honest. All of them are open. All of them are quick to share who they are, what they are, but the mistakes they've also made. Okay. They don't have an ego. Well, that's not true, because in sales, I don't care what you say, you have an
Everybody
ego.
has
You
an ego
can't
in
get
sales.
great sales. Yeah. So, but they have what I call there's a good and bad ego, right? They have great ego in that it doesn't keep them from being able to put their people first and shine the light on their people first. So, I think being open and honest. Go ahead.
No, keep going.
I think being open and honest, the reason we're afraid typically as leaders to do that is because we're afraid there are going to be repercussions.
Yeah.
Okay, we're afraid that it may cost us the job. And here's what I tell people who tell me that. If being open and honest about your mistakes in life lose you your job, then you have the wrong job. Okay, I work for a company that's the biggest and largest luxury home builder in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. We're actually one of the most successful in the nation. However, my boss is quick to tell you he made so many mistakes. In fact, he's probably one of my greatest mentors in that he was my biggest supporter when I was going through the difficulties I was going through in my marriage. And he came to me. He's one of the things he told me. He says, and he shared with me, Mike, I've screwed up 2 marriages. I've been divorced twice. And he said, please don't make that same mistake. Okay. So I think the world is ready more than we ever have been for open and honest leadership. So
I agree. And in my experience, when I fell on my sword and when I say, guys, I handled this wrong. Here's what I should have done. I learned from it. I apologize and I'm going to do better the next time. Everybody rallies around me. Everybody rallies around any leader that does that. And look at all the movies and all of the TV shows that are built on failures and how you come back from a failure. I mean, I just think it's such an endearing quality for a leader to have. But you said something in what you were just talking about, and all I could think of was, I feel like there is a big population of leaders that just don't fully embrace all that we're talking about. Like they are still no, sales is tough, and you got to do this. You've got to get it done. I'm going to micromanage the shit out of you until you die and until you get me what I want. And I actually know like all of there's a whole population of people that went to one company, and that is the culture there. And it's really frightening. But I mean, what do you think about that? Because those leaders that are so, ogre mentality, it's hard to work under them. But do they have a chance? Like, can the culture be changed?
Well, always. I mean, but the difficulty there is that culture doesn't work from the bottom up; it works from the top down.
So true.
So so that kind of culture has to start at the top. I want to talk about a word you use, and that's micromanagement. I think micromanagement has really gotten a bad rap. Here's why I say that, because obviously no one wants to be micromanaged, but I'm not sure that's true. Here's why I tell you that. I micromanaged my children growing up. Okay. I mean, and you do as a parent, you micromanage your kids.
Yeah.
And as they get older, and as they've earned more, respect, and as they earn more your trust, you give them a little more rope. But as a parent, you can get away with that because your kids believe that you love them.
Yes.
They believe that you care more about them than you care about yourself, that you would lay down your life for them. They have that understanding. Okay? And I think the reason that micromanagement doesn't work in the workplace is because there isn't that understanding. I think if that understanding existed, and that I care more about you than I care about my own success, then micromanagement wouldn't be that. It would be helping. It would be, I want to make sure you're successful. So I think it has everything to do with the leadership's approach to leading.
Yeah, I think micromanagement most often is thought of in a negative light because you don't have that trust. And when you do have that trust, it doesn't feel like micromanagement. So, it's the negative label for a process. And it's so, to be on the receiving end of it in a bad culture is horrible. And it's stressful and makes you anxious and can affect you in so many ways. So the leaders that have understood, if I build trust first, they can ask questions and they can say, okay, so you had that call, what's next? And who are you talking to next? Can I help? And, how do I help you get from here to here? That's, to me, leadership. That's less about, managing a process. It's helping make sure that people are doing the things that need to get done. And can be more.
One of the big misnomers about leadership is that I can't be the leader I want to be because my boss is not the kind of leader I need him to be. That's just not true.
It's ridiculous.
Okay. You could start today being the kind of leader that people want you to be. In fact, I've spent a lot of time, and going into next year, I'm actually going to do a webinar on, I'm sorry, not a webinar, but a masterclass on leadership, but becoming the kind of leader people actually want to follow.
Yes.
Because a lot of us get pushed into leadership, but we don't have a clue, right, how to be the kind of leader that people want to follow. And I tell people, look, the good news is, here's the good news. It's not really that hard or difficult.
No.
Number one, you just have to spend a lot of time making sure people understand that you're here to make sure they're successful. Once they think, or once they believe that you're only in this for you, you're already done. You're lost. Okay. Because now no one trusts, no one's willing to put it out there. No one's willing to come go along, because everyone believes, and a lot of times it's true, that you're only interested in moving to the next rung of the ladder. Okay. And so that very quickly can change leadership.
I had a friend, I just ran into her a couple nights ago, and she's leading a sales organization. And I said, how's it going? And she said, she goes, but I listened to your podcast on Saturday. And she goes, and I'm not going to do what my managers are doing to me, to them. And it shook me out of my mindset. It was so important to remind myself that. And it was just exactly what you said, like ship rolls downhill, and, you just don't do that.
During the Great Resignation, I read that the numbers were a little over 50% of the people that resigned directly because of their manager.
Oh, yeah.
Not because of the company, because of their manager. And another 47% of those said Of the 50% that left because their manager, 47% of those said, if my manager had just pulled me in and said, hey, I really need you to stay. I really want you to stay. They'd stay. But no one did. Okay. So I said, I think it says a lot about the room that's left in order, out there for us to improve the leadership, that exists in America.
To me, when I've had people that I've coached and myself, when I've said I'm going to take another job, and the response is, oh, is there anything I can do? Well, how about you think of what you can do, come back to me with some, hey, I want you to stay. Here's some things that would this help? Instead of, oh no, I have to suggest it to you too. You weren't enough of a leader before and you're still not enough now. Yeah. Okay, let's switch gears for a second. So let's talk about the role of fun in leadership and culture. And what's your thoughts on that?
Fun, F-U-N, fun.
Fun. No,
you didn't ask me about fun. So I think, wow, that's crazy that you would ask me that. My mind's just racing. So the greatest fun I create in life is a direct result of the positivity that I go into every day with. And I've learned, coming out of my assholeness, I've learned that I have to be the most positive person I know, period, in the world. And I teach leaders, look, you want to be successful, be the most positive person you know, because positivity changes our outlook about everything. Everything, matter if it's marriage or relationships or work or the people that work for us. Positivity puts you in a place where you can never solve a problem if you weren't there. Positivity solves problems. Positivity creates solutions. Positivity turns people around. Positivity turns negative numbers into positive numbers. There's nothing you can do that positivity doesn't directly affect for the positive. Here's the problem. We don't really understand how to become a positive person. Okay. We think that it's going to have to do all this, and this. And people really, really look at me strangely when I tell them that becoming positive is just waking up in the morning and deciding today, I'm going to be positive rather than negative. Yeah, I'm choosing today to be positive. It's mindset. Yes. It's just like happiness. People are like argue with me all the time that happiness is not a choice. No, it absolutely is a choice. Okay, joy is not a choice. Joy is different. But happiness is you decide, no matter what happens, I'm going to be happy. Another one is motivated. Motivated, you choose to be motivated. You choose to be motivated because you get up, you do something. And as you do something, it makes you happy because you're accomplishing things. You become motivated, then you do more. So all these things, people are amazed when I talk to them about, because it's just not that difficult. Here's the difficult part right here. This is the difficult part. Now, the solution to that, I tell them, is not really difficult either. You just have to get up a little earlier and put yourself in a place every morning where when you leave home, you've allowed yourself to get into a positive, happy, motivated place, energetic, enthusiastic before you walk out the door. Okay, it takes a little time. So you have to get up a little bit earlier than you may be getting up today. But the good news is it's really easier to do than you think it is.
I agree. And I actually, this is testament to what you just said. I had a German au pair who we adored, and it was her time to go back to Germany. And she was so worried and so stressed about knowing she was going back to a culture that doesn't smile. And she's like, as Americans, you're friendly. Everyone asks you how your day is. And listen, I'm in Massachusetts, so that's a pretty big statement because not everybody's like that. But she felt that. And so what she did was she said, I'm going to do a challenge on Instagram called 100 Days of Happy. And every single day she had to post something that made her happy. And it changed her mindset and it changed the way she lived because she did it for 100 days. And I love that. And I love that she was able to keep that and hold on to that and remind herself, I've got to find those bright spots. I've got to find that sunshine. And, it's something we talk to my kids about, and you guys have a choice. You can look at this as the sky is falling, or you can look at it as an opportunity. And it's hard for kids to really understand that, but it's something that I really believe works. So